And we're live in 3, 2, 1. And welcome everybody to another version of the Planet Mullins podcast. Hey, I got Kung Fu arms going today, and I have a fantastic, I'm weak for the waving arms from a girl. Don't do that to me ever again. And my guest today is a fantastic composer who's got a wonderful children's album out now. Please say hello to Erica Rabner.
Hi. Thanks
Hey,
for
Erica.
having me.
Hey, it's nice to meet you. You're looking lovely, and as we talked yesterday, you're kind of, a New Yorker outside of New York right now. You're in an undisclosed location in Utah.
I am. Yeah, I had been living in New York for 5 years, and when COVID came along, all of my work became remote. So I have become an expert at creating a little mini recording studio wherever I am, and got a car and hit the road, and I'm in Utah for a bit. Yeah.
Well, I love as I said yesterday, I just love the whole drive of Denver, where I went to high school, and hanging in Boulder, and then going back to LA and seeing Utah, because, you can skip the Grand Canyon. A lot of people don't know this. You can just skip the Grand Canyon if you know how to drive I-70 and I-15.
I spent so many hours on I-70 now in my life. In all the states, I didn't realize it was that long. Yep.
Yeah, it's for me, it's a way to clear my head and to get out of all of the mess of everything, because I love the solitude and kind of the loneliness of it. But at the same time, I'm so modern now, during Grammy season, because, that's how we met, as you submitted in the children's category, this like wonderful album that you did that we're going to talk all about today. And, I found myself in that stretch of Green River to Richfield going, I wonder if I have cell reception in this thing where it says 110 miles of no services. What if I could, though, just go online for a minute and like post a comment on Facebook? Could I do that? And I found places where I could actually do that. And that was, I was thinking, well, yeah, I could go remote and I could be anywhere now. And a lot of people are really doing that. And it doesn't look like it's negatively affected you. It looks like you just got really comfy with it really quick.
I definitely got comfortable with it, and now I'm constantly thinking about all the different time zones. It's my first time being on Mountain Time, so I'm working with collaborators in New York and LA, and making it work.
Yeah, it's I have to make, as I'm shooting the show and everything, you're my 24th guest already, and I've only started doing this middle of August, so I've been cranking pretty hard. But I have to make these time zone charts for myself, because about 3 weeks ago, I had this one that I thought was all perfect. And then I had forgotten how some of the time zones worked. And I ended up with these 2 people in the morning and then a 6-hour gap, and I had
one of those too. I was sending an email and trying to make a plan at midnight, which is never a good idea. And I sent them so we're going to meet at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, which is noon New York. And they were like, okay, we're down to do it. I said 8 a.m. New York. I did it backwards then. They're very kind. It all worked out. But yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So going into this weekend, I was particularly happy that somebody was in Mountain Time, because I'm in Mountain Time right now. And, it's a fun thing.
I love Mountain Time. The elevation is tough as a singer, but the time is great.
Well, how do you manage that? Because, see, I was, from a young age, I was one of those kind of bad boy kids. So I got involved in all the wrong stuff, including smoking.
Yeah.
And, then after I was told by my own band members in the 80s that held an intervention after I sang a lead vocal on a gig, that they were going to quit the band if I ever sing again.
Oh, no.
No, I'm so bad, Erica. I mean, I cannot. I have a broadcast voice. I could do, I could do NPR or PBS or whatever, but I cannot sing at all. Voice.
You remind me of an actor. I can't recall his name, but
yeah, that's always the best part for me, because I think of it as low liability when they say, but I don't know who, and I go,
oh no, I'll get the name after.
Yeah, okay, but anyway, so the thing is coming to Denver, I came from LA and I did high school here, and people were just so used to it, and everybody in Colorado was so fit. and they're
Mm-hmm.
so active, and they're so like, I'm going to go skiing, and then we're going to go hunt, and then we're going to play tennis, and we're playing racquetball, and then we're doing a marathon run. And I'm like, dude, that's all for you, because I can play the piano, have my cigarette. But for people like you, I mean, do you have to do special stuff to stay healthy with your voice all the
Yeah.
time?
So I actually have never smoked a single thing in my life. I've always just been so sensitive, and I have had a lot of sinus issues my entire life also.
Uh-huh.
And I saw a bunch of doctors actually 2 years ago,
Wow.
and they, in the middle of my, my first their check-in, they were saying like, "Oh, you didn't tell us you were a smoker." I was like, I
What?
have never smoked anything in my life. And they told me my lung capacity was far worse than a smoker, which
What?
was shocking, but also made a lot of sense. I've had
That's
asthma, but when I was super young, didn't want an inhaler because thought I don't know what that was about, but I've always just kind of pushed through it.
mhm.
And I'm just, in my parents' house, they have a steam shower. So I always used to steam before shows, which was awesome. When I was in
Right.
high school, I was singing back then in middle school. And I still have these tricks where I'll take like a towel and run it under really hot water and breathe it in. And I have a nice little portable, breathable also to get some steam. And
You got to have that stuff, right? Because my dad would do that when we came to Colorado. The thing we noticed was the climate was so dry.
so
There was
dry.
just no humidity. And my mom really had a trouble. She was like you. She was like, I used to be able to this and I used to be able to that. And now they're saying, and it wasn't just the secondhand smoke from my dad, because he was a smoker for many years, but she just got to where they had humidifiers, they had steamers, and then she had this whole bevy of these drinks on the night table, because
Yeah.
she would wake up. And you do that in Denver, like,
I
you wake.
bring humidifier with me everywhere. When I go to LA for a week, I have like a little portable one that you can just stick it in a cup, and
Nice.
it's so I'm always thinking about all of this.
That's great, man. Well, next time you run out of, gas on the hiking trail, you can just take your humidifier and your solar and be all modern. So let's talk about your new album and some of the things that you've done in your amazing young career, because it's, out of all the people I've interviewed, when I read your bio, it's like, this is kind of like a dream come true for a person who's just going right out of school, and all of a sudden you're on Sesame Street, and then you're writing these tunes that are in syndicated shows, and then you pop over to Nickelodeon on a cold call. I mean, this is like dream come true-y kind of stuff for people. So maybe you want to share with some of my viewers, especially the younger people trying to get going and be as successful as you, like, how do you pull that stuff off? How do you get going? What do you do?
Sure. So you're talking to someone who is both a researcher and a singer-songwriter. And I would say that the research definitely helped with the hustle. So when I went to my undergrad, I knew that I wanted to study music, and I also knew I wanted to study psychology.
Oh,
Originally, I actually wanted to just do conservatory, but my parents they firmly wanted me to also get a liberal arts education. So I chose a research institute for my undergrad and studied psychology, and also sang and did music in the jazz ensemble.
wow.
And at first in the jazz ensemble, it was instrumental only. So I really had to talk my way in there, and they let me sing trumpet parts for 2 years. So I was doing that while,
Wow.
yeah,
That's really got to be great for your vocal chops, though.
it was, yeah. Oh yeah. And timing, and there was a lot of great learning there, but I was doing that. And I was also just studying, research and psychology. And at the time interning at Sesame Street as a researcher.
Oh,
So we would go out with the show and show it to kids, preschoolers, and then interview them after to ensure that they were learning and all of the goals are being met. And I really fell in love with that. And while I was studying at Brandeis, I actually also went abroad to focus 100% of my time on music. And so I did jazz vocal performance at the Sydney Conservatorium of Music, fell in love with that, and finished up my undergrad focused on, again, research and psychology.
sure.
And I was just singing for fun, and I had never written a song.
Wow.
So I was singing at Starbucks twice a week, loving it. They have an awesome Starbucks in Cambridge Square, and
Oh,
it's a two-story Starbucks, and they have a piano,
oh,
a real piano, not a keyboard. And so I would
wow.
go there and play, and I learned so much. I remember the first show, and I'm sort of talking all over the place,
Those are
but the
good.
first show, I made this set list, and I was so nervous about the talking between the songs that I practiced so many times, and I had multiple anecdotes based on how I was feeling. And doing that for a year and a half, I got to just make a set list and change it on a whim and not worry about what I was going to say, and got really comfortable performing.
Well,
So
that's
I
the
had always
left brain and the right brain, both, because you had the analytical side and then your creative side. And then when you put a show together, you really have to plan things initially when you're first doing it, because every kind of possible thing can happen in a Starbucks.
And it did. It really did. I still remember one show where some people came in and they wanted food from Starbucks, and it was a little tough, but I was performing and they were unhappy. So they started performing louder than I was. They weren't unhappy with me, they were just unhappy with Starbucks. But I remember we had this competing, dueling concert going on, and just had to roll with it. I actually invited them to join me. But I learned a lot from singing at Starbucks. And I was singing at Starbucks actually after I graduated. And at the time I was first working on Arthur, the TV show with the aardvark. And then I went and did a year at Harvard Grad School of Education, focused on technology, innovation, and education. So I had decided I'm going to do psychology and research, and singing will be my hobby, but it's not, a viable career option for me.
Well, you have all of these facets, and you're kind of like the super ultra modern, female role model if you look at that kind of stuff, because you're being smart enough to know that you've got to have more than one dimension. One of the guys that I interviewed this Grammy season is a new age composer, very successful, 600 films and TV shows. And he said, everybody needs to be a generalist now, not a specificist.
Yeah.
Because you've got to have, this wide range of things that you're able to do. And especially with music business being so hard. So you do this research and stuff, and then all of a sudden somebody at Sesame Street says, hey, Erica, write us a song. What the heck?
So I'm at Sesame Street working as a researcher, and they launch a new YouTube channel. And so they say all of the employees are welcome to learn about this channel. And while they're telling us about it, they say you're all invited to pitch ideas. And I'm fired up. What a great idea. You should make a music video. So I go and I tell the person in charge, I think you guys should do a music video. And she says, great, write us a song. So I had never written a song. I had one moment where I went to LA to see if I could make a go of music. And while I was in LA, I asked everyone, who do you know that does music in LA? And that's where that's coming in. Everyone I know. If you know someone, tell me who they are. And my friend's older brother met a guy who was a producer. Okay. So that was one of my many meetings. And I went to him and I said, I'm a singer. I love soul and R&B and Motown. And so I hear you're a songwriter. Do you want to write songs for me? And he was very polite. He smiled and he said, I don't write songs for artists, but I work with artists. I'm open to co-writing, or if you have songs, all of that.
Right.
And I said, I'd never written a song before, but I'll try with you if you're willing to try. And I think he found that charming and naive. So we decided we were going to work together. And at the same time, the Sesame thing comes up. So I go back to my desk and start writing 2 songs in tandem. And I was at Sesame, so education was really at the forefront of my mind. And I thought music video is an amazing way to deliver messages to kids, like try new foods and like being mindful of the environment. So I wrote Try New Foods and Shelly the Turtle at the same time from my desk. And that week, the next 2 weeks, I just kept working on them at work, and I would be at the office until 9 p.m. because I was I'm very honest about my time. I thought, okay, if I worked on the songs till 5. I have to work on the research till 9.
Well, you're trying to balance those two sides right there.
Yeah. And so I had this producer in LA who said he'd be open to working with me. And he told me to buy a USB mic. So I
Right.
bought a $60 Audio Technica USB mic,
Those
and
are really good though. Audio Technica is great.
it totally worked. And I recorded some ideas on GarageBand and sent them over to him. And he, we did a FaceTime together, and he was sort of adding some sounds and asking me what I thought. And the songs were born. And then 2 weeks later, when my pitch meeting was, ready, I brought in the songs and I played them.
Wow.
And yeah, I played them to a room with 2 people, and they both seemed to be enjoying it. And at the end of the songs, they said, "These are great." And I said, "Thanks. So are you going to buy them?"
Oh, you're going to buy them. Yeah. $50 each. And it's like the
I look back at that moment, and if I were ever in a pitch now, I would never ask, "Are you going to buy my song?"
That's like the guy with the Nike swoosh said, "Sure, I'll draw you a little logo for $150." And they said, "Okay, thanks."
So lucky for me, they were definitely looking out for me more than the Nike swoosh incident.
Oh,
So I said,
good.
"Are you going to buy them?" And they said, "If we buy them, Sesame Workshop will own these songs.
Uh-huh.
They'll have full control over it, and you won't have the freedom to do what you want with it. They're your first 2 songs ever. You should keep them.
Right.
And we'll commission you to write a song that you know is for us."
Okay.
So I left the office. I called my dad and I said, "I can't tell if I just got the most polite rejection of my life or if someone was looking out for me, and I won't know until I know." And then a few weeks later, they said, "Will you write us a song about Thanksgiving? It'll be a buyout. We'll own it. You'll write it." Those were the expectations going
so you're
in.
you're learning the whole legal side of this. And I can already see people out there just going, "God dang it, she's so lucky, because I have 300 songs and I would never be able to get my foot in the door at Sesame Street."
I'm very lucky.
The way that you got your foot in the door was with your day gig.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with music. And
Nothing to do with it.
Sesame's credit, they had someone in their legal team who had come from music. And somebody said, "Have you sat down with Joe yet? Let him just give you a little 1, 2, 3 into the world of music." And I'm really grateful that he did, because obviously I've, still made mistakes, but sure, I had that leg up, and that was useful. So after I realized how had I not put, kids and music together and been writing songs, I knew I needed to get into it. So here's again where my research brain came in. At the time, I was thinking from the world of kids TV as opposed to just the kids music genre. Wow. So I went to the Emmys website and just Googled Emmys children's music, and I emailed the last 5 years, anyone who was nominated I emailed them cold.
Wow.
And said, "Hi, my name is Erica. I am a singer. I think I want to be a songwriter. Can I talk to you a little bit more about my background?" And I heard back from 3 people, and one of them was in New York and said, "Come to my office." 2 of them hopped on a call with me, and the one who said, "Come to my office," his name is Mike Rubin, and he runs Rumba, which is a studio in FIDI that does music for children's television.
Wow.
And we hit it off, and he told me, actually, I created a job with him, and we got to work together for almost 2 years after, which was really fantastic.
Man, that's so cool. So you've had this kind of, dual vision or double vision of having this, because my dad would always tell me, you got to have a backup gig. He wanted me to be a newspaper person, and it just wasn't something I wanted to do, because he would never come home happy. He worked at the LA Times, and he worked at the Ontario Daily Report, and he worked at the Denver Post, and he would come home just pissed off like every night. So I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to be that guy, and what is the thing that makes me the most happy? And then I thought, well, it's playing music and being around my friends, but finding a way to make a living in the entertainment business, as you know, it can be an extremely challenging thing. So then, but you you know, I did my research on you and I pulled up these videos and you're actually singing these kid songs and syndicated Sesame Street shows and stuff, right?
So Sesame, I haven't done it for their show
Or
yet.
was it Nickelodeon?
So Nickelodeon, I've done demo vocals for Nickelodeon, and I was the singing voice of Barbie for a while on Mattel.
What?
So that happened through, when I was at Roomba. They were.
I've got Barbie on my show.
It's so funny because I'm really not a Barbie girl at all growing up. I mean, I actually love the brand and what they've done with it now, but growing up, I was a tomboy and my sister was the like pink girl. So suddenly when I was the voice of Barbie, we all just found it very funny.
That's great. So you're sitting around at family meetings and your sister's going, oh my God, of all people.
And that's the funny thing is, so with Barbie, when I got that role, and I didn't, I'm not the singing voice of Barbie anymore, but at the time, my life sort of changed because with Barbie, we did a music video, and the day of the music video is the day I had my first date with my fiance. And also, the music video is what led to my newest children's album. Because
so did you meet your fiance? Was he filming and shooting the commercial?
No, I met him afterwards actually, but he is a filmmaker. And so I had told him, you know, I'll be coming straight from a music video shoot, but it should be fine. And he knew that I was going to run very late, which I did. I ran 3 hours late, and I'm usually 5 minutes early or 15 and like walk around the block. So for me to be so late to a first anything was funny.
Wow. So was he sitting at like Luna's in Little Italy going dum 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 dum?
I actually texted him saying, I think it's going to be a little later than I expect, but you know, and we had plans to get drinks. So I said, I think it's going to be later than I expect. So either we have to push this way later or to another date, or we have to get dinner, because I can't show up after a music video shoot with no food in me. And like we picked a new place that was close, and we got tacos after, so it was all good.
Wow, that's so good. And then how many years ago was that?
That was almost like, I guess 3.5, almost 4 years.
Okay. So then, you know, I've known a lot of people that have been involved with other creative people and stuff. And when it happens, is it a synchronistic thing, or did this ever cross your mind? And maybe if it's too personal, I'll edit this out of the video, whenever.
No, go
but
for
like
it.
When you fell in love with a filmmaker, did it ever cross your mind? You're like, oh, thank God, now I got a like free video editor guy.
Of course. I thought you were going to ask a different question, which was just having two creatives and two freelancers in a relationship, which is funny. So many of my friends are on dating apps now, and they tell me what they know they would want and don't want. And I tell people, like, I wouldn't have thought that I also wanted to be with a freelancer because it's so, you know, inconsistent. But you never know. So I'm big on giving chances.
Well, you seem like you're just so happy and radiating such positive everything. And when I first watched your videos and stuff too, that was the thing that attracted me to it. I mean, obviously the messages, I had to have some explanation about the messages, because this was a year in children's at the Grammys where there's all these children's albums submitted by people that didn't have any kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of skeptical at first. And then when you explained about the research, and I saw Sesame Street and Nickelodeon and everything, and then I, you know, watched you in these videos, how passionate and, you know, what a like healthy kind of life force type you are. It's really anti what's happening in a lot of parts of the business of recording, because there's weird imagery, like even some of the things that Lady Gaga did when she was getting going. I remember years ago, my best friend was saying, this Lady Gaga is like so amazing, but the videos would have like, you know, raw meat and lots of blood in them, and her with this weird crap all over her face. And I would just say, dude, turn it off. And he would say, but it's really brilliant. I said, no, the spirit of it is wrong. Mm-hmm. Like there's something about the spirit of it. Now, when she came out and she started singing jazz by herself at a piano, I was like, holy
like the Stephanie Germanotta days, those are incredible. Agreed.
Unbelievable. And I don't understand why there has to be that like dark kind of weird, violent, gory, kind of creepy thing that makes people more marketable or whatever. So when I found you, I was like,
Well,
there's somebody normal left. There's a normal one left.
I mean, my album, it's funny, it's children's, which it absolutely is. But
Right.
one thing that's very different is that the audience that I had in mind were older kids and tweens. And
Oh,
the rationale behind that was just tweens. It's this age group where you're often aging up into content that isn't for you. That's, the language is inappropriate,
oh,
content is inappropriate, and
right.
thematically it's just not syncing up to what they're going through. So I wanted something that was, that really dealt with what they are going through. And so every song was intentional in that way, whether it was, the relationship that they're building with themselves, with their peers, in the larger world. And so actually, to jump right back to the Barbie music video,
Yeah.
Penna, which is an audio streaming service for kids 3 to 12, I connected with them while I was at Rumba and first joined their team as a researcher. So I was testing podcasts and game shows and different audio experiences. And then I started joining them as a songwriter, and they actually are a team that, parents of tweens. So they approached me and said, we think this is a gap that we're seeing for our kids, and we want it to be
Right.
filled, and we think that you could do this. And so I worked with them to really think about the target demographic and that audience and how it could feel very authentic and real to them. And I spoke to a lot of kids and tweens while I was making the album, and would just sit on the floor with them and run some topics by them. And what do you think of when you think of this? Does this appeal to you? Is this, what do you want in music that you're not getting? What are some issues you're thinking about now? So it definitely also touched upon, my experiences as a tween, and that, transition from childhood to adolescence. But there were many voices that were.
Well, did you have, I mean, you said you were kind of like, between you and your sister, you were the tomboy. Was your whatever this period, the tweens period, or whatever you call it, was that a super traumatic thing for you for some reason, or what happened there?
So it wasn't super traumatic, but it also wasn't super easy. So for me, again, when I think about the jump from elementary school to middle school, that was a big jump for me, because I remember I went to camp one summer and I came back and everything changed. All of a sudden, I felt like I was always picked first for sports back in elementary school. And then I got there and all of the girls were wearing tight pants and tight shirts and eyeliner, and they were just all they cared about were boys, and they were all just picking each other for everything. And I thought, hey,
Right.
athletic, what's happening here?
Right, it got all clicky. Well, I obviously can tell that you didn't go to Hollywood High School, because at Hollywood High, it would be all the boys wearing the eyeliner.
Yeah.
Anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was a shock to the system. My first day, I literally showed up wearing the exact same track pants as the guys' basketball team. And all of my friends were wearing makeup. And I just felt like, well, no,
Well,
what's
yeah, I
happening
mean,
here?
it's a hard thing to transition into having your biological condition just take over your body. I remember when that happened to me. I was 13, and all of a sudden I didn't even need other people around to just feel like my whole body was in chaos. I
Yeah.
mean, I just felt like, oh my God,
It's
what's
a
happening to me?
weird time. And you're like,
Yeah,
I felt like I didn't belong anywhere, because I knew I had younger siblings in elementary school and I knew I didn't belong with them.
right.
But I felt like I'm not quite on par with the rest of some of, my friends here. And
Right.
I can't go, I'm not a grown up. Like, you would go to, family dinners, and I didn't want to be at the adult table. That was very boring at the time. And
Right.
I wasn't a young kid. So it was just this
Yeah, it's
weird
that little no man's land, where there's not
exactly.
really a Milton Bradley game. We used to have these Milton Bradley games that be like for ages 3 to 10, or it's just, but when you hit that gap of like, 12 to 16, where your biology and your body's doing all these things. I remember I grew up, I just shot up like a weed. I got so tall, all of a sudden, and, you know, I came from a poor family. So, well, not poor, but working class. And my dad got so tired of paying for new pairs of shoes because your feet always grow biggest first. And once my feet hit like a 12 and a half, my parents said, we're buying you a size pair of 14, size 14 pair of wingtip shoes. And you're going to stay in those shoes until you grow into them. Because if you ever grow into a 15, you're going to be 9 feet tall. And I ended up being 6'3", but it was just uncomfortable because I was so self-conscious about myself.
And that's the thing, that age, so many kids are self-conscious about so many different things. I know I was. And a lot of times it's so silly. And they're just all like, people are just not on the same page, and everyone is worried about what other people think. And that can sometimes prevent them from just being who they are. So I'd say the big point of this album is just celebrating who you are, who I am. And that comes from, yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Well, I was, you know, like I said, I was touched by the spirit of what you're doing, and just by the healthiness and the kind of wholesome appeal of it. And that was before I even knew that it was Sesame related or whatever in the beginning. But it's got to be way harder. See, I have a nephew who's had a lot of problems, and he grew up in the internet age where there was access to stuff that he should not have had any access to at all for like years. And he got exposed to all these things because of the internet. And it wasn't my fault, you know, because I wasn't the uncle going, hey, you know, he was already into all of this stuff that he shouldn't have been near at all when he was like 12.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, then you put that with a combination of all the physical things and biological things that are happening to people. So, you know, I hope you can, you know, get a lot wider exposure somehow for what you're doing, because if kids can like latch on to what you're doing and say, well, hey, you know, this is something I could do positively, or I could become a musician, or I could be like Erica, you know, that kind of a thing.
They are, whoever they are. Yeah.
Yeah, that would, I just think that would be a really positive force. So, you know, you, I noticed in your little avatar, because we talk on Facebook Messenger sometimes. And, I'm not a fan of Facebook Messenger, and I have it as a separated app. But the only reason that I'm not a fan of it is because during Grammy season, when everybody knows I'm a voter, I get sent like hundreds of videos that are all 10 minutes long and stuff. And that's a weakness in Facebook, as far as I remember from last season, is that a lot of videos would have a virus in them.
Oh no.
And that's one thing. So I always say, and I might have said this to you, whenever I get one of those links in Messenger, I say, please email me at my email address. Let's pull it off of Messenger, because I don't trust it as well. But, you know, when in your case, when you send me these messages, it's like this cool, it's like a Mary Poppins keyboard girl or something, because there's this red keyboard and you're in the white and you look like the flag, and, you know, all this stuff. And then, you know, it sits on, I go, oh, it's Erica Rabner. Cool, man. I wonder what she has to say. But you have that same red keyboard with you today, right? And
yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, why don't, if you don't mind, I mean, it would be great if you play something from the current album. I know that you've got a new album coming out too, but ooh, that looks really spiffy, man.
Good.
I like it.
I actually might play something. How's the lighting behind me?
The lighting is good.
Great. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to put more of the keyboard in the shot, that's fine. But, you know, I'm fine with how it just, the lighting is great. There you go.
Oh, so I was thinking of playing something brand new that I wrote during COVID.
Wow.
That is not children's, and yeah. It's the first time I'm playing it for anyone other than my family.
Oh, well, you better tell me the title of it.
Oh, yes. Bad Days.
Okay.
Ready?
Ready.
And if my volume is not great, let me know and I'll give another start.
Okay.
Bad days got me feeling beat down and worn out. Never bad days would be better with you around. No no doubt. Bad days got me thinking, good far and few between. The bad days got me wanting to not be heard or seen. Oh, meet me by the river, we can look across and know. Oh, meet me by the river, 'cause with you I'm not alone. We don't have to feel alone, no, no, no. We don't have to feel alone, no, no, no. Sometimes I wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and it's hard to wash that feeling out my head and up my chest. My bad days get better when I decide to try. Now the bad days I realize that with you right by my side. Oh, meet me by the river, we can look across and know. Oh, meet me by the river, 'cause with you I'm not alone. Oh, meet me by the river, we can look across and know. Meet me by the river, 'cause with you I'm not alone. We don't have to feel alone, no, no, no. We don't have to feel alone. We don't have to feel alone. We don't have to feel alone.
Wow, man, that was just so great.
Thanks.
Yeah, I give that a 10 out of 10 right there. Wow, that's amazing. I just noticed with you and some of my other guests that are, in the new generation of people really coming up and coming strong, is that there's so much great vocal control and good pitch and nice balance and stuff, because there was an era, and I think it was before you were even around, but there used to be these weird things. Like there was a year that these two guys named Milli Vanilli got the Grammy, and neither one of them sang on the album. Like they didn't even sing the song. They just had, somebody manufactured this look for them. It was a black guy in dreads and this other dude, and they had the latest dance moves and stuff, and they got up. But then it came out after they'd already won the Grammy for Best New Artist that they weren't artists at all. They hadn't ever even sung. And I don't think that kind of thing happens now, but because of shows like The Voice and American Idol, I think it's put more pressure on people in your age range to just kind of step up the whole game, right?
I've always been like a singer, and my dad sang growing up. So when I would be—
Oh, your dad was a singer.
He was a singer, and he did not, pursue it professionally, which is part of why he was sort of hesitant about me doing so at first.
Okay.
But he used to be so proud of me when I was younger, because he said that at 4 years old, if I was singing a song and it got too high for me, I would pitch shift. And I never strained my voice, and he thought that was incredible. And his dad sang as well, and he used to always just say, "Good timing. She has good timing." That was the only compliment I got, and to me it was a whatever compliment, but my dad said from his dad that was like the compliment. So
Yeah, can we I'm having a little trouble hearing you, so let's kind of move the keyboard over and get you back up a little closer, maybe to the screen and this and that, because I wanted to talk to you about what you think your future is going to hold, because obviously you've made a conscious decision to leave New York, and you said you were kind of going around the country, staying in these different areas, but you're both working remotely and making the two freelancer thing work. And then you're getting married soon, right?
I mean, hopefully in a year. Who knows with COVID?
Okay.
But
Because I'm noticing this like really nice rock on your finger over there, and he must be doing okay because that's a pretty serious rock, dude. Now, do you have plans to collaborate with him on some kind of visual music projects, or what is he?
For the Grammy thing, he actually made me 2 just very short, for him, nothing videos, but for me, it would have taken me so long. He helped me put together this fun little trailer, and he also put together a short music video for one of the songs called Home. And so there's that project. And then separately, I mentioned to you, I love writing kids' music so much.
Right.
But I also have this other side of me that loves doing soul and R&B and with pop sensibilities. So I had planned on sort of rebranding as Erica Rays before the pandemic. And the pandemic came along, and I was going to be working with a team that was going to help, and it just no longer,
Right. Well, how are we supposed to keep level and keep our feet on the ground is a question that a lot of people have asked me, because I was in my early days as a jazz guy. We weren't just jazz guys, we were jazz rock guys. And we would do the stuff that the rock guys did. We would go on these tours and stuff would happen, and thank God there weren't cell phones, and thank God there wasn't the internet, and we had this whole kind of thing going on. And then as time developed, people thought, well, Rob is really kind of settled down, and now he's a voting member, and he's kind of chilling, writing his books and stuff, and he looks very successful on Facebook, so let's just ask him. So then you get like by the hundreds of people going, Rob, what are you going to do? And I'm going to do what's right for me, and you do what's right for you. And they're like, no, that's not good enough. You need to give me advice. And I even had about 3 weeks ago, I'm producing, because the remote thing is great, right? Because you can produce and write, you can send your stuff. So I'm producing this one band, and I had sent them a final mix, and I've been working on this thing, and they're nice guys, and they play their stuff, and then they send me these really raw things that aren't on a grid. So, when I play drums and there's no tempo in the grid and there's no rulers and you can't edit, and you just have to like feel everything that they did. And I had done this thing. I spent a lot of time on it. So I sent it over to him. I'm really proud of it. I'm going, great. And then 10 days go by, and I get this kind of hostile email from the leader of the 2 guys. And he goes, we paid you money. We can't believe that. It's been 10 days. You've sent us nothing. What kind of operation are you running over there where you just take the money and run from it was something like in that tone, right? And I'm sitting there trying to listen to like another 50 Grammy submissions that night. And I'm just going, oh, no, this can't be right. So I hunt down my sent email and I type in his thing, and then I just forward it. And I say, bro, it was sent to you on this day at this time. Here's the MP3. Here's the WeTransfer files of the final mix. What the hell? What the H? So then about an hour later, I get this email from him, and he goes, oh my God, we're so sorry. But we just are under so much pressure here because our office in Pasadena almost burned down today. And then my sister's house burned down. And then, we can't breathe because it's the COVID. And then I'm just thinking, okay, bro, that's fine. But, I'm not your family and I'm not your counselor. I just want to like do this music and move it forward. So what I have told people is find your own way to the floor, find your own way to the ground, whatever ground zero is for you, then you have to find that. And I think you're just doing it, you and, Mr. Wonderful, you're finding a way to do it very creatively, because I wouldn't be sticking around New York right now.
I mean, I'll be back. And actually I'm planning, so right now we've been in Denver, we're in Utah, we're going to be in New Mexico, and then in Texas and Austin.
Wow.
And you know, but the plan is come January to actually go to LA and
Ah,
spend about 6 months there.
okay.
So I love LA. I mean, there's a lot I hate about LA, but my experiences with LA are I go there and I get to write and I get to be in rooms with different musicians. And right now it's, not really the same, but who knows what it will look like. But, get an opportunity to sort of try out LA as much as you can try out anywhere during a pandemic and see what
Right.
it's like being in one spot a little, for a little longer. At some point, I'll
Well,
be back anywhere.
just as a guy that's in the business that spent, 35 years in LA, I feel much more safe for you that you're going with a fiance or a husband than if you're trying to do it on your own, because unfortunately the circumstances in LA in the last 6 months have deteriorated to such a point that safety is a real concern.
Yeah.
And it's just safety in every neighborhood, including Hancock Park. I mean, I've just seen like tons of people moving out. And one of my students that's there in Mar Vista is a city planner and an architect, and she's worked with the city for years. And I was talking to her at her piano lesson last week, and I said, I could tell she was really sad. I said, what's going on? She says, in my block alone, 5 for sale signs went up in 1 week. So when you guys go, be really aware. I don't know if you have any self-defense training or anything, but or if he does, but you definitely need to be paying attention 24 hours a day at everything in your environment. And I'm just saying that as your friend. I mean, I'm not trying to scare you into not going. You need to go. I mean,
I don't scare easily.
obviously. So is your goal now, as far as with the academy and recording artists, are you trying to get a major label deal, or do people in your generation still
It's
even
so
believe in
funny.
that, or what?
Before COVID, I was before COVID, from January to like March 12th,
Uh-huh.
every single night with the exception of 2, I was either at a networking event, at a show, either my own or someone else's, and I was hustling and networking. And if you asked me what my goals were, I had all of these goals related to, getting some sort of a deal, and I had long-term goals and short-term goals. And I've always been such a planner, and
Uh-huh. Well,
really
that's good.
changed that because now it feels like some of those tangible goals are just not within reach for at least the near future. So
Right.
I am doing my best. When the pandemic first popped up, like I mentioned, I was really on track to be releasing my own. I was supposed to spend 3 weeks in March in LA finishing up my album and getting it out in the world, and that didn't happen. So instead, I wrote a Wash Your Hands song and made a Wash Your Hands music video, and wrote a Mask On song. And I just thought, how can I apply my skill set to be a helper in some way?
Uh-huh.
And so I've been, now I'm working on, I have a shot song for when the vaccine comes out, and I'm working with another kids media company to try and find a way to really spread that message far and wide. So I'd say that I'm putting some of my personal goals slightly on hold while I'm trying
Right.
to respond and react to what's happening as quickly as I can.
Uh-huh.
But I would absolutely, that is definitely a goal, to be connected to a label. And a dream of mine, before the pandemic, one of my short-term goals was just to get to go and do these songwriter retreats with
Right.
different songwriters and be in the room. My dream week or month would be just being in the room with different professional songwriters every day and just drinking the Kool-Aid and learning. I would love to just be with a label so that they can just pair me with other people
Right.
and really support, music. And I was in sessions, I would say 6 to 8 sessions a week before
Wow.
the pandemic. And it
Wow.
was all just because I was networking and trying to, that was my New Year's resolution, was to have 7 sessions a week.
Wow.
So yeah, but that's all. It's slowed down. At the very beginning, I was still doing a lot because I think everyone was really grasping onto connection in any way that they could. And
Oh,
then there was a lot of burnout that happened where a lot of my collaborators needed to just turn off and take a break. And now there's some in between where I'm
all right.
trying to, yeah.
I noticed the same thing with my music students. I mean, I had a couple of students that were, you know, in the film music business, just kind of dabbly, but they were trendy and had these, you know, a little placement, a sync license here, a sync license there.
Mhm.
And man, by the middle of March, they were gone. Like this one girl who I'd been teaching her because she was trying to expand her pop thing into jazz harmony because her songs were getting really boring. So, you know, I was teaching her circle of keys movement and things out of my book line and this and that. And then one day it was just vapor trail
Mm.
because she just couldn't stand the pressure and the worry and the melting downedness of her friends and all of this watching the world crumble.
Yeah, it's
And
tough.
you know, the world is crumbling. And you know, some people think that this is the end times and stuff, and I've never felt that way,
Me
that
either.
it's all gonna freaking end, because like you know, I was a George Carlin fan when I was a kid, and I thought George Carlin, and you can't watch any George Carlin now, so I'm just not going to recommend to anyone to ever watch any George Carlin, because I'm sure somebody would get really offended by stuff. But George would just say stuff that I just, you know, would take what I thought was the wisdom out of it. And he would say, you know, it's not going to be the end of the world. What if the ocean completely fills with plastic? One day the ocean and plastic will just bond and they'll make something new out of the planet, and they'll say, screw humans. And then the humans will come back, you know, 1,000 years later, but nothing's going to end. It's just going to keep on changing and evolving. And I think that's what all of us are kind of trying to find out. What is the next thing going to be? Because you can't predict anything. And I have friends on both sides that some are over here and they're going scream, scream, scream. And there's people over here going scream, scream, scream. And I'm just saying, yeah, but look, who knows the answers? Like, you can't,
Yeah.
right? So the fact that you're just like planning and proceeding along and being super creative and your music's good and you're so enthusiastic, I just think more people need to find out about what you're doing if possible, you know.
It's definitely highs and lows though. And with me, I feel like I will have these moments where I'm just hyper productive and hyper creative, and it's nonstop song. Like that Bad Day song just fell out of me over a day. And then there will be a week where I just don't write anything. And that week definitely came along with the Grammys because it was just, I'm inundated with listening
Right.
and writing emails that I wasn't writing. And when I'm not writing, those little voices come in your head that are like, when will you write again? Have you lost it? Can you write again?
Oh,
And then
right.
yesterday I wrote a song that I'm really excited about, a new song, and now I feel like she's back. But
Mhm.
it's definitely highs and lows, and it's hard when you don't, have that sense of accomplishment all the time.
Or
In
the outlet just to go hang with your friends at a club and say, hey man, I
definitely,
love your new song, or doing an open mic night and just going, yeah, I'm going to just take my snare drum down to you know, the surf side in Venice Beach and play with like a homeless guitar guy and see what happens, you know, just those spontaneous
I miss
moments of having the art.
being in the room with someone. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I really miss that. And at the same time, you know, it's been non-musical time for me more now than any time in my adult life, because I've got 33 songs in the can. And I had this huge party planned in April for this new album that I've done, of what I hope people are going to find is really innovative arrangements and originals of things I did at a killer studio, great players, young guys, old guys. It was this amazing thing. And then the party and the gigs and the whole year all got canceled. So I'm sitting on a mountain of recorded stuff.
Yeah, it's always such a weird feeling when you end up sitting on something for so long,
Mm,
because you have all this excitement for it early on. And so, depending on how long you sit on it,
right.
sometimes it doesn't, I mean, it's still, the work has as much goodness as the work has, but
Right.
sometimes it doesn't feel as relevant or as close to you anymore.
Mm,
And hopefully this is not that case, but I had that with my first album
uh-huh.
2 years later, and I felt like this isn't me anymore. And it was this weird feeling because when I put the album out, I was getting all of this feedback, and I just felt like, thank you. That feedback is for 2 years ago, Erica, not
Isn't
for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. But one thing I learned being on major labels is that there is a 2-year window where somebody like you could fall into that problem. Because when I was on Warner Brothers, the last time I was with them, I did this album that was recorded in 95 and 96. And then they had all these other artists that they had me later at the time thing. So by the time that album came
Yeah.
out, I didn't even feel connected to it.
Yeah, it's very weird when you don't feel connected to your own work.
Yeah,
But
but they owned it, so I couldn't do anything. Like I
yeah,
couldn't
that's
rush
very
it up in the
difficult.
release schedule or whatever. Thankfully, I had like this huge hit. I actually had 2 huge hits off it. One of them was called Wednesday, and the other one was Dance for the New World, that made it into like the top 20 in London on the dance
Nice.
chart or whatever. So they were kind of happy about that there. But you know, the way that you plan everything and the way that you schedule is really impressive, because I run into a lot of people that don't have that right, what is it, the left brain.
Mm.
Isn't that the part that's supposed to, get your tax return in on time? Is that? But anyway, I just got to thank you so much for coming on the show. You're
Thank
a
you.
wonderful, positive voice in the middle of a cataclysmic, disastrous world, and I just hope that there's more momentum, whatever momentum we can get behind your stuff, because I can put on one of your videos and all the pain goes away. I'm like, look, there's
Aw.
happiness, there's normalness, there's somebody singing in tune, this is lovely
Or
stuff.
you bring me on as like a happy light, and then you invite me to sing a song, and I choose bad days.
Well, but that's one of the things too. I mean, with the dichotomies of emotion
Yeah.
that we feel with music, because I interviewed another gal who was in children's. I interviewed her about a month ago or something, and she was talking about a horrible breakup that she had,
Mhm.
with this guy and stuff. And it was like, oh yeah, and he left me 2 days before my birthday, and then I got all sad. And I said, well, did you start writing these like really sad songs and stuff? And she goes, no, it was even weirder, because I would be going along playing like this happy Scott Joplin ragtime thing, and it would get more angry and more sad and more weird. So we decided we're going to do a collaboration called, the saddest Joplin ever, or whatever, when it was still really happy. But thank you so much for your time, and
Thank you.
I'll let you know when we're going to put it out and all that stuff. And best of luck with everything that you're doing. I'm just thrilled that we got a chance to meet, and I got to get a premiere of your new song. It was fantastic.
Thank you. And keep me
And
posted on when you do end up releasing all of your songs and
oh
stuff.
yeah, well, if you go to Apple, there's I think 39 albums by me under my name. So, anytime you want to dive down that rabbit hole. But just remember, I'm an album-oriented person. I wasn't the singles guy. So my stuff is like, on this album it's about this, and on this album it's about that.
I like that. I like this album. For me, was the first time that I really, had the whole like every song was around the album.
Right, it's a concept.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think of it as the most intentional work I've ever created.
Right,
And
of course.
I like approaching it that way. I also like just writing a song that, is spontaneous and that hits me, but it's nice concepting it together and really being so intentional. So I'm
Yeah, I
excited.
tell people when they, are first looking at my catalog, I said it's very diverse. It sounds like every jazz keyboard player from 1950 until current day, because I've been influenced by all those people, but my ideas are in there too. And if there's an album that you don't like, that's okay. There's 38 more, just click to another.
Yeah. I mean, my
Right.
brother wouldn't listen to my own children's album because
What?
he said, I'm not a child. He said, I'm not your target demographic, so why do you need me to listen? I actually finally got him to listen to one of my songs home, and he said, I like it. So
But
nonchalant.
isn't that like such a sibling thing?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that, the brother's
Little
going to
brother,
go,
like, not for me. Why would I listen to that?
oh my God. That's funny. I was texting with my middle sister 4 or 5 days ago. When was it? I think it was Tuesday. The podcast got approved by Apple, which is this
Yay.
huge like thing in my life. And so, you know, whenever something really great happens, I text her, and and what she said was, she said, oh yeah, what I did is I actually left her a voicemail, and then she texted me back and she said, yay, you know, happy face. That's just so good. All right, I'm going to be busy with my doctor's appointments, so don't call back.
Only a sibling.
I mean, it's like, oh, well, you know, it's the kind of stuff where they say, well, I have medical issues that I haven't really brought up to anyone. And then what are you supposed to say? You're supposed to say, okay, let's go down that rabbit hole of all your medical issues while I'm dealing with like the Melting Down guys that think that I didn't actually finish their album, and then 700 other Grammy people. Okay, it's time for Utah.
Time for Utah.
All right, Erica, I'm going to sign off, and gosh, you just have a wonderful time with Mr. Wonderful. And you know, thanks again for coming on, and let's stay in touch with everything about your wonderful music. Okay.
Likewise, sounds